Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining us for today's session on our new product, our X10 product. This will be a reasonably short session. So we have two presentations to show you. The first one, we'll go through all aspects of the X10. And the second one will show us a live unboxing of the product. As usual, we'll take any questions you have. Feel free to ask them throughout the session in the questions window in your portal there, and we'll endeavour to answer what we can afterwards. So without further ado, we'll get started. So as I said, this first presentation is about 15 minutes, and we'll see you on the other side.
Hi guys, today we'll be going through Horner's Micro OCS X10 all-in-one controller. This is our agenda for today's tutorial. We're going to first go through what is the Micro OCS X10 and where it fits in with the rest of our all-in-one controllers. Then we're going to talk about product features. We'll compare the Micro OCS X10 with the EXL10, and we'll finish with a live questions and answer session as per usual. So, what is the Micro OCS X10? It is the newest member of the Micro OCS series. This series is designed to bring great functionality at an entry-level price, and we feel like the X10 is a product that outshines the competition in its price class. This is the first Horner OCS product that we have that offers a 10-inch widescreen format. The Micro OCS series is our entry-level product range, where the XL series OCS is our mainstream product range. The Micro OCS is very often competing against the kind of low-cost manufacturers or entry-level competitors, and the XL series OCS more often than not is competing head-to-head with more major automation manufacturers. We have four models in the Micro OCS series: the Micro X2, X4, X7, and now the X10. We consider the Micro OCS series as the best all-in-one controllers for simple applications. The X5 also does exist, although it's really a bridge series between the Micro series and the XL series. Next, let's take a look at the physical highlights of the Micro X10. It has a nice slim profile and fits really well in applications that have a limited amount of depth. The connections are mostly on the back of the unit. The only exception to that would be the micro SD slot, which is on the side. It's 265mm wide by 167.8mm tall, with a total depth of 52.1mm, and it has a nice compact panel cutout. So let's take a look at the different elements of the X10. We'll start with the operator interface, which is what you will see when you look at the product from the front. The first thing you may notice is that this product does not have dedicated physical function keys. It has slide-out soft keys. Another thing you may notice is that this is a widescreen formatted product in a resolution of 1024 pixels wide by 600 pixels high. It has good brightness at 340 nits and 16-bit color rendering, and a resistive touchscreen. A resistive touchscreen is what we consider to be the most robust for industrial applications. It's reliable, and it also will support gestures like swipes and flicks, etc. in the future. Lastly, with the Micro OCS series, you can have up to 250 screens that are configured in the software, and up to 100 objects per screen. Next, let's take a look at the logic CPU that's running inside of the X10. It can be programmed on the logic side in register or variable-based advanced ladder, or IEC 61131. It has a robust amount of logic space at around 256K. It can also handle about 5,000 word type registers or variables, and another 2K bit types. From a logic scan rate, it's very effective with a 0.4 milliseconds per K. It supports integer math, double integer math, floating point math, and up to 4 PID loops in the unit, and those can be auto-tuning or not. Next, let's move to the built-in I/O. Instead of having multiple different models that only vary by maybe their ports or their I/O offerings, we decided instead to have one or two really cost-effective models in terms of I/O. So we either offer 26 built-in I/O, where the outputs are primarily relays, or 30 built-in I/O points, where the outputs are solid state. In addition to that, we do have I/O memory, which can be used to be mapped to external remote I/O. And from an I/O field terminal standpoint, everything is removable. So it's not strictly a fixed plug where you have to get rid of all the wires or unscrew all the wires in order to make a change. All the terminals are removable, as the terminal blocks themselves can be easily popped off the back. We have color-coded them by having the output terminal blocked in black, where the input and analog terminal blocks are in orange, and we clearly silk point every point so that you can see what wire is connected to which silk screen at a glance as you're looking at the unit from the back. And we also made sure that all 3 connectors are of a different number of pins. Moving to the input side of things, it has 12 digital inputs that are compatible with both 12 and 24 volts DC. 4 of them, the 9 through 12 inputs, can also be used for high-speed counting. The Micro OCS can also handle frequencies up to 500 kHz, which is far higher than competitors in the same price range. Again, we have 2 different models available in terms of I/O, and the only difference really are the digital outputs. So the Model A of the Micro OCS X10 features solid-state DC outputs, and they can support up to half an amp per output point. The first 2 outputs can be used for either frequency outputs or a PWM output. Step and direction type outputs are not supported by the Micro OCS series, and for those you would need to bump up to the XL series. For the Model R option, you have 8 outputs in total, 6 of which are relays isolated from each other. So you can have a mix and match of DC and AC voltages, and you have 2 high-speed outputs. Again, we can support 65 kHz on the output frequency, and we have the same restrictions or capabilities in terms of the outputs as we do on the Model S. So that's up to 65 kHz frequency, supporting either a pure PWM or frequency out, but not supporting step and direction. Analog is another area where the Micro OCS series does really well. With our Micro OCS line, we can handle 4 analog ins that are configurable between 4 to 20 milliamps, or a limited temperature range RTD. And then we have 2 analog outputs that are 4 to 20 milliamps, and these are all 12-bit resolution. So here we're showing how you would wire things up with either a 2-wire or a 3-wire RTD, up to the 4 of those. Alternatively, you can have up to 4 to 20 milliamps, or any combination of both. Next, let's turn our attention to communications. So, in the case of the Micro OCS series, Mini-B on the USB standpoint is available for programming purposes. Connecting to your computer over USB-A to a USB Mini-B cable. We have 2 serial ports, the RS-232 and the RS-45. The RS-232 could be used, for example, connecting to a receipt printer or a barcode scanner. The RS-45 is most commonly used for talking to a variable frequency drive, but it can be used for a variety of other industrial devices as well. As in all Horner products, we support CAN. With the Micro series, we use RJ45 ports for CAN. Here you can see it's colored red to differentiate it from the serial port and the Ethernet port, and then you can use that effectively for controller-to-controller communications. If you have multiple OCSs in the same installation, you can also use it to add remote I/O or expansion I/O through that port. If you're looking for CAN open capability or J1939, you would need to upgrade to the XL series. And if you have some of the oddball serial protocols, like master and slave or maybe SMP, we have more choices on our XL series. As in the case with our I/O with all our communication ports, there are no jumpers or dip switches. So if you need to set termination on your network or RS-45 network, or bias in the case of RS-45, you can set them from the system menu or from the program, no jumpers required. Next, let's talk about Ethernet. So, what we've done with the Micro OCS series is we have supported the most popular Ethernet protocols, Modbus TCP as a master or a slave, or server and client, Ethernet IP as an I/O device. This doesn't mean that you can use the Micro OCS series as an Ethernet IP scanner or master. No. You would typically instead maybe use a Micro OCS X10 to run a peripheral piece of equipment and have that piece of equipment seen with a high-speed I/O interface for interfacing with a higher-end PLC. So the logic CPU would see that the Micro X10 as a high-speed I/O device. In addition to those industrial protocols, we support the most popular other Ethernet protocols, including our web serving solution called WebMI for remote monitoring and control, as well as FTP for file transfer of any files that might be residing on a micro SD card. This unit can also support email, including encrypted email. There is some functionality that would require you moving up to the XL series, such as BACnet IP, BACnet over serial, and exchanging tags directly between one of our products and a Rockwell Logix CPU. Next, let's take at some of the other key features in the X10. As with all Horner products, the X10 has a standard micro SD slot. This is used for maintenance, for loading programs, for cloning units while maintaining password protection and data logging. From a power standpoint, the Micro OCS X10 is powered from 10 to 30 volts, DC wide range, so you can run it at 12 volts in certain applications. It should be noted that while it has a good environmental temperature rating of -10°C to +60°C, an XL series product might be the better approach when in an extremely harsh environment. But for a typical application, the Micro OCS X10 would be a good choice. The X10 also has a UL Class 1 Division 2 hazardous location rating. So, how does this new 10-inch product compare to our 10-inch product, the EXL10? We're going to compare what the differences are between this new Micro OCS X10 and the EXL10. A product which is very popular, has been out a few years, and is already available. I'm not going to cover every detail on each of these charts, but as you can see, there are some significant differences between the two. I've talked about all the great functionality that you'll find in the Micro X10. However, there's still a lot that the XL series does that is superior, and that's why it costs more. It has more memory, more variable space, it executes code faster, it has support for 64-bit floating point, and it can support up to 64 PID loops with some controllers, and 32 with others. The Micro OCS series can handle 4 PID loops. In the case of IEC programming languages, we've got some new enhancements coming, and those will only be available in the EXL10. They won't be available in the Micro X10s. Moving on to the I/O side of things, really the biggest difference here is that the EXL10, like all XL series products, has more variety in I/O options, including some really high resolution analog, some universal analog, and some analog outputs that are plus or minus 10 volts, for instance. With the Micro OCS series, you get 12-bit resolution, where with the EXL10 you get 16-bit resolution. From a high-speed counter standpoint, you have more flexibility with the EXL tech, so there's more options and more ways of configuring it. Raw speed-wise, there's not a huge difference, but from a flexibility standpoint, well, that's where you see the difference. Also, the EXL10 offers step and direction type outputs, where the Micro X10 does not. The graphics is where you'll really see the difference in screen generation between the EXL10 and a Micro OCS X10. This is the one area where the Micro OCS, as it is a new product for 2021, has an advantage over the EXL10, which has been out since about 2016. The X10 has superior resolution and in a widescreen format, which is becoming increasingly more popular. In terms of number of screens that you can configure and the number of objects per page, the winner is still the EXL10. From a serial port standpoint and CAN port standpoint, the big advantages are flexibility. You've got more serial ports, more protocols supported in the case of RS-232 and RS-45 on the CAN side of things, and more protocols are supported like J1939 and CAN Open in addition to what is supported in the Micro Extent. Moving on to the Ethernet chart, with the EXL10 you've got 2 Ethernet ports. So that's one of the reasons why a lot of OEMs really love those products, because they have one Ethernet port that's running their machine connected to high speed and another port that's completely empty that they can hand over to the end user so they can tap into the machine for things like a SCADA interface, for instance. With the Micro X10, you're only going to get one Ethernet port. To compare the peripherals, first looking at the operating system, we're using an embedded operating system under the hood in the Micro series, and we're using a customized version of Linux in the XL series. You have USB ports available, and USB-A ports available with the EXL10 for things like flash drives and for videos, although these are not available in the case of the Micro series. There is also some simple audio and video capabilities in the XL series that you won't find in the Micro series. The release of the X10 is planned for Q2 2021. More details are on our website. Thank you for listening. Next, we're going to move on to our live questions and answers session.
Okay, folks, so that was our introduction to our X10, trundling down the line. We have some questions in. Let me have a look at some of these. First one here is it daylight readable? No, it's not daylight readable. Very sharp, very clear screen, but at 314 nits, it's not suitable for direct daylight settings. Which protocols are supported? Again, mentioned in the presentation there. Limited, similar to the existing X7, X4 products. So the downloadable serial protocols will include Modbus master, and then we can do the Modbus slave and ASCII data transfer using the logic blocks within the program itself. I also believe that we have the GPS protocol as well as a downloadable for the Micro series. On the LAN port, as said, we have Modbus TCP client as a downloadable protocol, plus the standard resident protocols selectable. So that's EGD for Ethernet global data for exchanging between units, or Modbus slave is selectable there as well as Ethernet IP and ping. When is it available and how much will it cost? Okay, limited quantities are available now. We'll have a full production run starting in June, but if you're interested, please contact your supplier or distributor and they'll provide more information on availability and pricing. Stepper output, no. You may be asking if there's a stepper output. No stepper outputs. PWM and CAM outputs are there. 65K on the PWM and a couple of high-speed digital outputs as well. Let me see anything else. Wide range voltage. Is this available? Yes, it is. Yeah, okay, some of you may have noticed that. Up to now, the X4 and X7 products are supply voltages 24 volts plus or minus 20%, I believe it is. The X10 is wide range, similar to the XL products, so anything from 9 to 30 volts will power it. How do we update firmware in the unit? Again, similar to the X4 and X7, the firmware is updated. Well, there are a few options. From Seascape, we can update the firmware using MJ1 port, or we can also do it via the mini USB, which is a lot quicker. Okay. Now, as well as that, for the firmware itself, we can also update the firmware from the release version of firmware that's coming, which is 1550, which is being released with this product and others. We'll get to that later. You will also be able to update the firmware, subsequent firmware updates using removable media, which is new for this. It just involves, the procedure will be written, but it just involves putting the firmware file onto removable media, going into the removable media menu and loading the firmware from there. Okay. So that can be done via micro SD as well. Anything else? Does it support voltage? No. Milliamp and limited RTDs. RTDs minus 50 to plus 250, but milliamp only, no voltage support. Okay. What fonts are used for the screens? TTF or something else? No, they're not TrueType fonts. If you're familiar with the fonts currently supported in the Excel, we can import Windows fonts or create our own in the graphics editor. So they're imported in a similar fashion, kept as are stored locally as font files, FNT files. MQTT protocol support? No, not in the micro SCS, not in the micro OCS. You need to upgrade to an Excel series for MQTT and some of the other enhanced features. I can't see any more questions here, so I'll give you another few minutes, guys, while I play. I just want to show you an unboxing video. It's only a couple of minutes long, so if you'll bear with me, I'll show you that. And if there are any more questions in the meantime that you can think of, by all means, please ask.
Ooh, I've got something pretty exciting here. The new Micro OCS X10. Let's take a look. Let's get this open and see what's inside. Got the user's guide, quick reference guide at least. Some protective foam. There's the unit right there. Looks pretty sleek. Not bad for an industrial unit. What is that? Maybe an inch at the front. 2.5 inches total. Not bad. Here's the connectors. Looks like we're also including metal clamps with this one. Nice. Looks like all the connections are on the back. I really like that about the Micro OCS. Yep, they're all here. Mini USB for programming. A couple of serial ports. CAN port. Ethernet port. Here's where you bring in the power. And there's those 3 connectors for those 30 I/O points. Wow, think of the applications with 30 I/O built in. About the only thing that isn't on the back is the micro SD slot. I think that's on the side here. Yep, there it is. All right, let's flip it over and power it up and see what that screen looks like. All right, apply power and flip it over. Wow, already booted up. That's pretty fast. Nice looking screen. 10 inches diagonal. Widescreen aspect ratio. Pretty cool. Nice graphic. Can't wait to play with this baby.
Okay, guys, I'm back. That was our unboxing video for our X10. It's a nice looking product. I mean, you can see the screen there during the unboxing. It's a nice product. If you can all see my screen, which I believe you can, as soon as we're finished here today, we will have a product page up for the X10. As you can see here, I'll just scroll down a little bit. So obviously the details, specifications, and we'll have the downloads there as well with the data sheet and manual data sheet, etc., etc. A copy of the initial video there. and also we'll have the unboxing video in there as well. Again, just show you the manual data sheet, all of the details here. So it's good to go. This, as I said, will be available shortly after this presentation. So check the products page. It'll be under products, color touchscreen OCS, and you'll find it in there. Okay, so the X10 will be in here listed with all of those details. Any other questions came in? Email. Is email support? Yes, email is supported. So is SMS, in actual fact, SMS with an external modem. So email is also supported, both encrypted and not. I don't see any other questions here at the moment. So I hope that was informative for all of you. I expect it was, hopefully. Don't forget, next week we have 2 webinars on our upcoming release of Seascape 9.9 Service Pack 4, which has lots of new features, including IEC and other enhancements. So if you're not registered for that already, we'd appreciate you did so. But they're a little bit longer. They're both about an hour long. So those are on Tuesday morning and Thursday morning of next week. So hopefully we'll talk to you then. But for now, again, as I said, we hope this was informative. And if you have any questions or information required, check the website for the data sheet and manual. But if you have any other questions, come to tech support, and the team there will answer you. Okay, so thanks for attending once again, guys, and we'll talk to you again soon.